Alright, hello everyone, this is Kaylee from Just Nerdy Birdie Things, and I'm here today with a Ramble in the Brambles video, which is a series where I basically sit on the sofa, turn my camera on and yap about whatever subject I find interesting that week. This week, I'm going to be talking about my favourite Silent Hill game, which is Silent Hill Downpour. Now, I am not going to give you the play-by-play of the game for Silent Hill Downpour. I'm just going to talk about the things that I like about it and what makes it interesting to me. What makes it my favourite Silent Hill game. So, I will give you some background information as I go through it, so you can have what I think is vital information about the characters. So, Silent Hill Downpour is the last game in the mainline Silent Hill before the current generation of the games. So, and it was made by, it was one of the three Western games that were made. I'm not including Bloober in that. I'm talking about the previous generation of the games. But it was made, it's also the first, I think it's the only game that doesn't have music by Akira Yamaoka, just to throw that out there. It's the only game I think that doesn't have Akira Yamaoka's music in it. The music was done by Daniel Licht, who I believe did the music for Dishonored. So, while I don't really care that it's not, I don't care for the fact that it's not Akira Yamaoka, it's not the worst person who could be doing the music for it. The opening song was also done by the lead singer of Korn, so that's just another little tidbit of information about Silent Hill Downpour. But Silent Hill Downpour follows Murphy Pendleton, who is an inmate in a prison who ends up in Silent Hill because of a bus crash. That's it. The other characters that are of importance to Silent Hill Downpour are Anne Cunningham, who is a prison guard who's chasing Murphy through Silent Hill, Frank Coleridge, who is who was, should I say, spoiler alert, a prison guard in the prison that Murphy was in, and then Sewell, who is also a prison guard in the prison that Murphy was in before he ended up in Silent Hill. There are also a couple of other characters to mention, which is Napier, who is another inmate, and Charlie, who is Murphy's son. So, the first thing that I find super interesting about Silent Hill Downpour is that we are starting off with somebody who's in prison, which implies that he is guilty of something. Now, one of the themes, I guess, that runs through certain Silent Hill games is, or at least ones that aren't related to the cult, I guess, is guilt, is that characters are coming to terms with something that they have done, and the town is trying to kind of help them come to terms with what they've done, to punish them, to make them face what they've done. James with his killing of Mary, and Alex Shepard in Silent Hill Homecoming. Alex is an interesting case though, because Alex isn't actually guilty of anything. Alex is really paying for the crimes of his father, because, just to go on a side tangent about Homecoming anyway, my interpretation of Silent Hill Homecoming is not that Alex is being made to suffer because of Josh's death, because Alex didn't kill Josh. Josh's death was an accident. But what caused the downfall of Shepard's Glen in Silent Hill Homecoming is Alex's father Adam's decision not to sacrifice Alex, because he's lost one son already. So that for me is the thing for Silent Hill. It's not that the wrong child was sacrificed, it's that Adam Shepard then chose not to sacrifice Alex, which broke the covenant with the god and caused everything to go to hell. So Alex isn't really guilty of anything in Silent Hill Homecoming, but there's still that, you don't know that, is the point, I guess. Kind of like with James, you don't know what James did, you just know he's there looking for his wife. Whereas the setup for Downpour is very different in that you know Murphy did something, and and you are complicit in Murphy doing something. Because one, he's in prison, and two, the opening scene of the game. So the tutorial of the game is basically Murphy beating the crap out of another inmate, who is called Napier. There is a connection alluded to between them, but we aren't given the details of that connection yet. So it's also kind of left on a bit of a cliffhanger. It's implied that Murphy kills Napier in that opening scene, but it's not confirmed. You don't actually see it happen. It cuts to black before you actually get the confirmation. So that's something to remember for later. Silent Hill Downpour does continue the trend of having multiple endings. I'm going to talk about some stuff a little bit later that leads me to believe there is an ending that is considered canon for Silent Hill Downpour, because it fits the best with the theme, I guess. So obviously, so there's a good ending, there's a bad ending, there's full circle endings. I think there's a joke ending, but it's not a UFO ending, but I'll get to the endings later. But anyway, so what I love about Silent Hill Downpour, why I find it such a fascinating game, is because of one major theory that me and a friend of mine have that I just haven't been able to get out of my head. Absolutely, we can discuss it. And that is that Murphy is in Silent Hill, but is not in his own Silent Hill. So, I love the interpretation of Silent Hill that every person who comes to Silent Hill who has something that they need to work through has their own Silent Hill. James has his own Silent Hill. Alex has his own Silent Hill. You know, Heather has her own Silent Hill, even though that's cult stuff. Kind of similar to Henry from Silent Hill The Room, in the sense that he's kind of in Walter's Silent Hill, if that makes sense. He's not so much in his own Silent Hill, he's in Walter's. But the question becomes is, if I think this, who do I think? Whose Silent Hill is Murphy in? The answer is Anne. So Anne is a prison guard who is chasing Murphy all the way through Silent Hill. Now, from the very beginning, she doesn't like Murphy. It's pretty obvious that she doesn't like Murphy. But as we go through the game, we learn that it's personal. There is a personal reason for why she hates Murphy. And spoiler alert, she thinks Murphy killed her dad. Her dad being Frank Coleridge, the prisoner, the guard from the prison, who befriends Murphy because he doesn't believe that Murphy is in the right place. He wants Murphy to not be in prison, basically, because Murphy has a clean psych and is a model prisoner. He's up for parole. He's a good boy, essentially, beyond the beating of the other inmate and the crime. So, which brings us to, why is Murphy in prison? Murphy is in prison because he stole a police car. And he went on a 10-hour chase down the eastern seaboard, quoted from the game directly. Coleridge calls it something stupid. Now, it is stupid, but there's a reason that Murphy did it. The reason that Murphy did it is to get to the inmate from the beginning of the game, is to get to Napier. The reason why Napier killed Charlie, Murphy's son. Now, we're never told explicitly, so it's all open to interpretation, but we are never told explicitly that Napier is the man who killed Charlie. We are going off of we are going off of what Murphy believes. Now, I think the way they set it up, I definitely think that Napier is guilty of that, but Charlie's murder is not why he's in prison. He's in prison for something else. But the fact that he's segregated, the fact that he's kept isolated, kind of confirms to me that, yeah, he probably did do it. But, so, that's why Murphy is beating the ever-loving crap out of him at the beginning of the game. But, okay, with all of that, why do I think that Murphy is in somebody else's Silent Hill? Well, because of Murphy's monster designs. So Murphy's monster designs are kind of basic. They're kind of humanoid for the most part. Now, I have to go with material that exists outside of the game to kind of support this, which is why it's just a theory. I'm not saying that this is canon. I'm just, because I'm gonna use material from the Anne story comic to kind of support some stuff. But Murphy obviously does have some traumas in his life, but his monsters are very humanoid. So they are based on like other inmates, they're based on prison guards, they're based on like his wife. They're, you know, like traumas, you know, obviously traumas he's had in his life because of Charlie's death, him being in prison, like the downfall of his marriage. I think of the bats, like the little, I forget what they're called, but they're little bat creatures, and they're not little, they're big bat creatures that are kind of in the caverns. I think those, I don't think those are specific to Murphy. I think those are Silent Hill creatures. I think those are just critters that were just given to Silent Hill for this game. What other monsters does Murphy have? That's pretty much it. They're also like, so Murphy's two main creatures are, there's a character in there's a monster in a wheelchair, and then there is a monster in a big trench coat with a hammer, who's called the Boogeyman. So I'm gonna focus really on those two monsters but I think again, the reason why Murphy's monsters are humanoid more so than like any other monsters you really see in Silent Hill is because it's not, like, Silent Hill has stuff to draw on for Murphy, but the main reason that Murphy's in Silent Hill is for Anne. Is so Anne can figure out the truth. Because I'm gonna spoil, I guess, the ending of Silent Hill Downpour, in the sense that Murphy makes a deal with Officer Sewell to get access to Napier so that he can get his revenge on him for murdering Charlie. Now, when we get to it, Murphy can't kill Napier, so Sewell has to do it. So because Sewell has to kill Napier, basically he owes Murphy a favor, and he calls in this favor during a staged prison riot, and he basically tells Murphy to murder Frank Coleridge. In most of the endings, Murphy refuses. So at this point, I will go over the ending where Murphy is guilty, which is, it's cartoonish to the point where you can kind of tell that was never meant to be canon. It's just there for the double bad ending, if that makes sense. Because that ending also implies that Murphy killed Charlie, which is clear from the rest of the game that he didn't. So, and it doesn't feel like the James thing with Mary, where like, oh, you could get that interpretation. It's like, no, I think that's there just as a completely negative ending. And basically Murphy is executed in that ending for killing Frank and for killing Charlie. But in the rest of the endings, Murphy refuses. Like, Murphy point blank refuses to kill Frank. And so Sewell kills Frank and blames Murphy for it. So because Murphy is blamed, Anne, who is Frank's daughter, believes that Murphy killed Frank. Now, to step back from that a little bit, Frank doesn't actually die when he's beaten by Sewell. He is put in a vegetative state for several years, and Anne has to take care of him. So that's some additional trauma for Anne, having to see her dad like that. But so the character in the wheelchair represents Frank. Very specifically, represents Murphy's guilt over what happened to Frank, because Frank was good to him. Frank was essentially became a friend to Murphy. So Murphy felt guilty for what happened. Now, I don't know if Murphy necessarily knows that Frank didn't die that day. I don't know if he knows that. It's never stated explicitly, but there's a line from Anne where she says to Murphy, he didn't die right away, you know. Which to me implies that Murphy did not know. Which kind of, to me, also ties in with the theory that we're in Anne's Silent Hill, because why would Murphy... If Silent Hill is manifesting things from a person's psyche, how can Silent Hill manifest something that the character doesn't know? So if the character doesn't know, if Murphy doesn't know that Frank became a vegetable, why would he put him in a wheelchair? Right? So I think that kind of... But Murphy does have guilt associated with Frank, because he feels like he's the reason he got hurt in the first place. Because if he hadn't made the deal with Sewell, if he just killed Napier, this wouldn't have happened. You know, kind of that kind of thing. But so the other character, the other main monster is the Boogeyman. Now obviously the Boogeyman has a representation for Murphy in that he's represented as Napier. Now there's a scene where after Murphy defeats the Boogeyman in his fight, where the Boogeyman's face flickers between Murphy and Napier. I interpret this to mean that the Boogeyman's manifestation is being messed with, in the sense that later on in the game, Murphy becomes the Boogeyman for Anne. So, yeah. So Murphy is Anne's endgame, so to speak. Like Murphy is the kind of final thing for Anne that she has to overcome to learn the truth, because she has to learn that Murphy didn't do that to her dad. He's not responsible for what happened to her dad. Murphy also has guilt in regards to in his child's death, in the sense that obviously he has that survivor's guilt that I can only kind of guess comes with losing a child like that. Like, if I'd have just done something differently, this wouldn't have happened. If I'd have kept a closer eye on him, that kind of thing. But again, the reason I love Silent Hill Downpour so much is because that it just feels so different from the rest of the Silent Hills, in the sense of having this secondary character in Anne who just is clearly going through something in Silent Hill herself. Is clearly going through some stuff in Silent Hill stuff. Now, this is where I'll bring up the comic book stuff. So in the comic story, Anne's story, which is a tie-in comic to Silent Hill Downpour, we follow Anne's journey through Silent Hill, and we learn what she did, basically what she's done since since her dad got hurt. Now, the reason why I like this comic so much is because it's got better thing to it. But one of the main reasons why I think that we're in Anne's Silent Hill is because of the design of this creature. Oh, can you see it? There. So this is a manifestation of the warden of the prison that Anne works for. So to give some backstory on Anne, when she is given the name of Murphy, the person who harmed her dad, who she believes harmed her dad, she is pissed, rightfully so, I guess. But she basically vows to get revenge, and she vows to get revenge by having Murphy transferred to her prison. Now, Murphy has not committed a crime, as far as the prison system is concerned, has not committed the right kind of crime to get him transferred to a maximum security prison. So Anne has to do things she's not proud of to get Murphy where she wants him, and that manifests in that gross penis looking creature who represents her sleeping with the warden to get what she wants. She also does reference this in the game. She says, the sick things I had to do to get you into my prison. So she obviously feels guilty about it. It's not something she feels good about, but it is something that she feels she had to do to get Murphy. But the final, I suppose the final so in the comic, the ending is given where Anne learns that Sewell is the one who harmed Murphy. She learns the truth. And at the end, she forgives Murphy because Murphy didn't do anything to her personally, like, but she basically goes to her dad's prison, and it's implied that she takes revenge on Sewell. It's not explicitly shown, but it's definitely implied. So yeah. So in the good ending, Anne forgives Murphy and they go their separate ways. Like, she basically lets the whole thing go. So that's like the good bad ending, I guess. And then there's the bad ending where it's where Murphy is guilty, and then there's a joke ending with Pyramid Head and Cake, and then there's a full circle ending where Murphy just basically wakes up back in prison. Like, it doesn't go anywhere. Like, he's just doomed to repeat the same thing again and again and again until he, comes to terms with his own stuff. But I think the good bad ending is canonical because it maintains that Anne doesn't give up on revenge, and so she's learned the truth, but it hasn't. So Murphy's been let go, but Anne's story continues, if that makes sense, because she does let Murphy go in the, like, Murphy does get away in the good bad ending. So Murphy has been released from. He's dealt with his stuff, he's learned his truth, he's been released, but Anne's story continues. So that's kind of the fact that it ends on Anne, not on Murphy, who is supposedly our protagonist, is kind of what really makes that theory for me. But yeah, so but yeah, that is Silent Hill Downpour. I definitely wish that more people like played this game, because it is legitimately, like, okay, it's not up there with the Team Silent Hills, but it is an enjoyable experience, and it is a pretty intriguing story if you actually let yourself get pulled into it. It's very interesting playing from the perspective of somebody who is obviously guilty of something because he's in prison. And again, I know you don't have to be guilty to be put in prison, but for the sake of this argument, he's guilty of something. But yeah, I definitely do recommend Silent Hill Downpour. I also recommend Silent Hill Downpour because, sorry, my camera was about to stop recording, so I had to reset it real fast. But I also recommend Silent Hill Downpour because Murphy is one of the few protagonists who actually reacts to things happening about him. He screams, he swears a little bit, he doesn't quite have the same kind of potty mouth that Alex Shepard has, but he reacts to things. He jumps, he screams, he has reactions. It's so weird seeing a Silent Hill protagonist have reactions to things happening about them, and like him having a genuine what the hell. He has some what the hell moments. He's also a character who's kind of easy to root for, even kind of before you really learn what's going on with him completely. So he has an interaction with a character called JP, who basically ran like a little miniature train that runs from the caverns in the game to Silent Hill, or to, what's it called? Hillside. It takes you to, which is a little neighborhood, like right outside of Silent Hill, essentially. But he was involved in an accident or he caused an accident through drinking that led to the deaths of several children, and Murphy's like understandable frustration and anger at that, like, you know, he's a very well played everyman, which to me also kind of feeds into the idea that he's not really guilty of doing anything to Frank, which is why I don't think the bad ending is canon. But as I say, I've already explained which ending I think is canon. But I have rambled way too long, and if I keep going I will get into a whole side tangent about how Homecoming's story is actually really good. It's just that game is let down by its combat so badly, because the combat gets really frustrating. But if you want, I'll make an entirely separate little ramble video about that. But I think my next ramble video that I make next week is going to be talking about my favorite video games overall. I'm going to be talking about like both series and individuals. And then I also want to make a video on my video game guilty pleasures. So games that other people are like, or that are generally kind of panned, that I really enjoy playing, because I think every game has somebody who loves it for whatever reason. And I'd love to talk about the ones that are like that for me, where like other people may not necessarily like them, but I like them, and I'm going to talk about why. So yeah, I think those are going to be my next two ramble videos, and I'm sure in the meantime I will figure out more ramble videos to make after that. But yeah, so I hope that you all enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble about a video game for 20 minutes. I hope I've inspired you to at least check out a playthrough of Silent Hill Downpour, even if you don't play it yourself. Like, go check out the cutscenes or something, because I don't know, I find Murphy really entertaining. So yeah, you know, like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I'd love to have you here. I'd love for you to be a nerdy birdie. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends. Bye.